There are reasons that each of us are born. Our quest to discover those reasons. There are two greatest days of our lives. The first, the day we are born. The second, the day we discover why. Sometimes a man reaches his destiny on the road he chooses not to walk upon. How far will a belief system go for complete dominion? Sawatika, greetings, and thank you for taking the time to view my second show in my second season of Shut Up and Dance. The poem today is What If? And my conversation with you this evening is belief systems, and how have we come to believe? Is man political, or is man more? Is conflict necessary for the viability of society? Therefore, if peace is a compromise, inclusive, a modicum of respect and the greater good, if dominion is narcissistic, exclusive, privilege is paramount, and self-centered egoism is worshipped. Therefore, conflict and death is necessary for the viability of society. If we accept the concept of the toolbox of conflict is used by man, can we then say, if man is created in his image and likeness, if God incorporates all of humanity, therefore, man who segregates are more holy? How far will a belief system go for complete dominion? In my last if statements, it brings about for us to consciously make a decision on how have we come to believe. In my opinion, belief systems carry forth two meanings. This is my opinion. The first, belief systems, according to history, tradition, and all oral and or written communication, belief systems are poison, the blade, the cannon, the word, and the countenance are why the command absolute, no matter what the cost. In the beginning, there was man, stating, I am the messenger of our gods to you, and thus this is so. Now, in order for man to establish himself, the first thing that he did is to establish an order, a transition between man himself and the gods that were worshipped by a particular society. In the establishment of that order, exactly what of man made these declarations? Remember, effectively, in almost all civilizations, man addressed himself as to the messenger of the gods that him and his culture hold dear in order to establish order, rightfully so. So therefore, it was at that juncture that man established institutions. And what are these institutions? Primarily, which relates to belief systems. A man declared himself king and messenger of the gods that the civilization worshipped. Therefore, there is the religious institutions with regard to belief systems. The second system, there was a legal system employed. And the legal system had the right of adjudication of those who broke the law. Then we have society at large, which society has declared certain rules, norms, if you will define it such as that everyone, for the most part, should adhere to. And then we have the political, which is politics personified. And last, we have groupthink. And I'll define groupthink is that it is the ability of a man walking into the room, and for whatever reason, we all kowtow to his ability to communicate, to leverage, and everything he says has gold written upon it. First, we will approach the institution of religion. For whatever reason, man has ascribed himself to a belief system of the gods. Some cultures, many gods. Some culture, one God. Be that as it may. There was a spirituality invoked by man stating a higher authority than man himself. A authority that we seek to please, to be reverent, to acknowledge as an authority. Therefore, regardless of the religion, that field, that institution exists. Now, throughout man's history, we have seen how religion parlayed itself with its earthly messenger, i.e., representative. The immediate association was with whoever wore the crown or whoever was the chief or whoever either took the right or declared the right that he is the Savior. Rightly or wrongly, religion had a part to play. Therefore, a belief system. If you altered from that belief system in the early days of man, you were persecuted and or executed, or both. Today, as man has evolved, some of these same attributes, which we are all aware of, still exist. The conflict of religion. My religion's better than your religion, etc., etc., etc. My point here is to point out who was the caretaker of the belief system of religion. And by caretaker, I refer to who was involved in continuing this process. What rules did they play by? Were their rules consistent throughout history, from the moment founded till today? Or do they still even exist? The fallacy of religion, if we look at the total history of man, is that religion, so to speak, has a forked tongue because of its attachment and alignment with power. I am not saying that religion is bad, is evil, or is good. What I'm saying to you is that the representative of that institution has that within his power, which then transgresses accordingly to the legal institution. And by legal, I mean the laws that were written and giving society at large the rules of engagement with each other, with families, with other institutions. God gave to man the law of 10. Man has expanded that law of 10 to infinity. Therefore, with religion and legal becoming a part, does each exist separately on their own, or are there influences which could impede the rule of law or the method of worship, or who is even eligible to worship? Which then brings us to the next tier, society at large. Society at large, given the playing field granted by the ruling entity, how much flexibility did society at large hold or upheld? That is all based upon the relationship between the ruling entity, the religious entity, and the legal entity. Did they all work in concert with each other or independently of each other? History has shown in a number, too numerous to count, of that interplay and interrelationship. Then from society, we go to the political. The cigar-filled back room of how things are actually done, how power is actually kept, how power is actually held, who has the ear of the ruling authority, in all the games that they play in order to have that ear and that prominence. And finally, we have groupthink. For example, if the president of IBM walks into a meeting, how much cachet does he have because he is the president of IBM? How much cachet does he have? Is his every word listened to with great anticipation? Is his every word then followed through? For just because he is the president, what influence does he have by his mere presence? In some situations, it's overwhelming. Everybody waits for him to speak. A great example would be of a press conference held by our current President of the United States of America, in which each and every one of his cabinet members gave a 20-second to 1 minute and a half oration of his greatness and how glad they were to be, number one, chosen, and number two, in his presence. Great example of groupthink. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, how does this all play? It all plays in how have we come to believe. Because we ascribe to these various institutions, to these various individuals, be man or woman, and at large, a certain amount of credibility to what they say. But who is the accountant to then say, well, I'm keeping the scorecard, and when you started, this was allowed, and now we have evolved to no, this cannot be allowed. Man is forever seeking knowledge. So in his quest for seeking knowledge, things change. We no longer live in caves, in general, or by campfire. The majority of us live in a dwelling of some type. The majority of us have a language of some type. The majority of us are able to communicate on some level. The majority of us are seeking legitimacy and across the board balance with regard to each other, our families, our institutions, so on and so on and so on. However, history records the conflict and sometimes the sacrifice and sometimes the unyielding, willful destruction of man himself simply because I'm the king, I say so. If you don't like it, I can put you in prison, I can torture you, I can put you to death. And as we look at this world today, ladies and gentlemen, are we still operating in that medieval, archaic environment? Think about it. Our purpose is what? To live, to survive, to have a family, and go forward. To learn upon the mistakes that were made in the past, to then propel ourselves to further our view, to further our drive, to further expand our environment, rightly or wrongly. And when we lose that aspect, what do we lose? I posed the question in the beginning, is man political or is man more? The purpose of my show this evening was to deliver to you my interpretation of belief systems, how they came about, and how we can go forward. But when we go forward, do we go forward believing rightly or wrongly, with regard to an individual and or an institution, with regard to history and or what is the word? The word I'm looking for, taboos. How do we go forward? If we are created in his image and likeness, is that in and of itself enough? Which brings me to my poem for this show. The title is What If? Is it clear? Is it here? Is it me I must fear? What compels your ire? What desire ignites your fire? What choir exhorts chants from my funeral pyre? If man is a social being, if man's choice is good or evil, if evil brings man together, therefore, what is good? Saratika. How have we come to believe? Nebraska, we are more than agriculture. Nebraska, we are more than beef. Nebraska, we are more than football. Nebraska, the good life, come, read us. And I want to thank each and every one of you for viewing my program, and most importantly, and especially,
Hot Shops.
my sponsors, who are my life's blood.